Okay, so welcome back to another episode. So today we're going to talk about Dave Chappelle. He recently put out a special called Unforgiven, and it pretty much is him letting all his feelings out that he's been dealing with. And you can pretty much hear it in his voice. He's had enough of playing the game, the industry game, right? Playing to the game is sort of like the euphemism of capitalism, right? Everything has come to a head right now with everyone in the world when it comes to these corporations and us as citizens. And this is the fight of an artist, quote unquote, if you want to say it like that, and a corporation that has done him wrong years ago. Now, here's the story. If you don't know, I did a little bit of research from YouTube. I'm not YouTube, but Instagram, YouTube, not Instagram, fucking Google. I don't even use Google no more. Shit. I just YouTube everything, but Google and YouTube for the most part. And the story pretty much goes like this: that he did a interview in the past with Oprah, and then he did a like comedy shows kind of in private for the most part, but you can find them online on YouTube. And he really breaks down the industry and basically how it treats you, right? So it brings you in, makes you feel good, works you until you can't work no more, and then gets rid of you and keeps your likeness and everything about you. Basically, that's the game. So he learned this at a young age, and he described it via a 3-card Monte game, right? So he's like, at 14, he watched this 3-card Monte game go down, and he was like, oh, well, no, 18. He watched this 3-card Monte game go down, and he stayed there for a while until he thought he figured out the game, and then he approached it and then got played, and the people around basically roughed him up and told him, not to stop another man's hustle. Basically, you got hustled, that's your fault, not ours. Now get out the way. And that's how he felt in this situation with Viacom, or Comedy Central. Viacom owns Comedy Central, BET, Showtime, MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Pluto TV, Paramount Pictures, CBS. They pretty much own daytime television for the most part, and probably that household area of consumers, right? Right where the Chappelle show was getting broadcasted out to. So now he claims during the Oprah interview that he approached them during a renegotiation, and they pretty much weren't going to budge or come to any agreements, and he just pretty much left the show. Now, contractually, legally, Viacom owns that show, but is it right? He says that a couple times, and he makes it make sense by saying, so just like we had regulations on those 3-card Monte games over time in New York City, right? Does it make it right, that he was able to get played like that by this corporation? So instead of him going and basically making a big fuss online, he took years off, toured, did his thing on his own, only announced it when he was in town. It was for him, it was a very smart move, at least from my viewpoint, right? He just let it be what it is. And now here he is in this time of reckoning, 2020, right? Everything's going down in 2020. Hell, even Jeezy and Gucci made up in 2020. So maybe Viacom, Comedy Central, and Dave Chappelle can come to an agreement in 2020. But he says at the end of this special, I'm spoiling it, that's right, that he could just take it, right? I mean, his agents and lawyers are pretty much in on the gig, right? They know that contract was shit when he signed it, but it helped them make money. So they told him to sign it, and everybody had a nice payday. When he left the show, they continued to make money off of it, selling merch, selling DVDs, Now they're streaming it, continuing to make money off of it. And unfortunately, they don't get to have his name associated with it as far as coming to him in the board meetings, right? Or, you know, when it, not even board meetings, like in agreements to license this material, right? So Netflix agreed to take it down because now he is now partnered with Netflix. Netflix agreed to take it down. They did what they said. Netflix also paid him, and Netflix is pretty much, you know, who Chappelle is befriending at the moment. So I commend Netflix for doing that service to the man, because they definitely could have kept that show running on there. But kind of hard to keep it running on there if the main person dealing in the show is telling you to boycott the show. So that was the call to action today, to boycott the Dave Chappelle show on any platform. All right. So what are your thoughts? How do you feel Dave Chappelle is going to go about this moving forward? Let me know in the comments below. This was a very interesting special. I really enjoy the fact that Dave hasn't, you know, I would normally want to laugh, but the way that Chappelle gives us the world around him is way more interesting than any joke he could tell, to be honest with you. And I like the moves that he's making currently. I mean, if you guys think about it, a lot of these companies are relying on content that they may have, you know, not even knew the history behind a lot of times, right? These companies, as he mentioned, have people working for them and they just go and come, right? So he's telling you his story and why he doesn't mess with them. And if you support him, then you need to boycott the Chappelle show. Are you going to boycott the Chappelle show? Are you no longer going to watch it? Also, let me know, how do you think this will play out moving forward? And it's interesting to know that this is something that we also see playing out with Joe Rogan recently, moving all of his content at the beginning of the year is going to go to Spotify. So YouTube is only going to have clips, and Joe Rogan has been in a battle with YouTube for a while. So this is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, it works in Spotify's favor, but they've already been trying to censor Rogan, and he recently did a live show on YouTube, which you would think goes against the terms of the contract that he has with exclusivity on Spotify. Maybe that doesn't start until the beginning of the year. I'm not sure. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Chappelle says, you know, pay him or he's just going to take it, right? Now, those of you out there who understand lawyer talk, he's pretty much in a battle legally because of the terms perpetuity throughout the universe. So if you don't know perpetuity means forever and ever and ever. And throughout the universe means that they're definitely playing this shit on other planets, okay? So if they own it and they go to planet Neptune and Neptune has Spotify radio, they're going to get a cut of that audio. If the Neptune has Neptune Netflix, they're going to get paid there. And they're not going to tell Dave any of that. They're not going to let him know shit. They're not going to pay him none of it. And only they have access to that intergalactic dimension. Let me stop. But yeah, that's what's in the contract. Literally, in perpetuity throughout the universe, they own his name and likeness. So he couldn't even make the Chappelle show again if he wanted to, because they would then sue him and request the money from that. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if anybody ever noticed the symbolism of the C that he has on his neck. But much like Prince changing his name to the artist, Chappelle did something similar and has been moving in that fashion ever since to avoid these legal issues. But now he's taking this fight public. He brought it to the people. He says the people are really the true owners of that product, right? Without that show would have been nothing. So what do the people think Comedy Central or Viacom should do, right? Ooh, I think they should pay the man. And I think they should pay him handsomely. Now, I don't think Comedy Central has the money to pay that man anymore. I'm pretty sure they blew through all of that shit with all of the terrible shows they put out in the past since him. But that's not his fault, right? I'm pretty sure whatever revenue they've currently made from the show um, is gonna continue to be is gonna be interesting. Basically, like this: if they just do the right thing and offer him royalties and an upfront payment, I think they could solve this issue with Dave. Now, Dave may want to play the moral game and also tell them to do something community wise, which I think is a very smart play as well, seeing as how he wants to prevent this from happening again, right? You don't want someone else to just fall into that trap unknowingly. Some other 18-year-old, 19-year-old who's on the path of a comedy career and gets taken for everything he's built. So I think Dave will play it in that fashion. I do feel like Dave may end up being a part of Comedy Central in some fashion with him and Netflix. It's a possibility. You can't, 2020, like I said, we've seen crazier things happen. So I think that all those people who are in that industry who were forever, for whatever reason, fighting for their own well-being are going to have to come to some terms of compassion with Dave Chappelle. And I think he has way more leverage than they realize. Now, they might continue to play the legal game, but if he starts dropping more content and creating a show, he could probably call it the Chappelle Show and it not even have to like say that, you know, like who knows how he could play this. It's going to be interesting though to watch. I'm sure he has plenty of content in the vault for us that he's ready to release, and he wants to settle this dispute before any of that happens. So I think this is a great message to everyone out there to at least be smart and play the game in a covert way. I think he could have been years ago very vocal about this and ended up being shut out, and he's managed his way back to the top without even doing anything other than being himself. So very smart man here. Hope you guys pay attention. Go ahead and check it out. It's on his Instagram. I would play it for you, but I don't want to get copyright strikes or anything. I sure ain't got no money to be playing with these corporations. So until next time, as always, love life. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.